You're listening to the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe, a podcast of curated conversations with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development. Get ready for inspiring interviews, educational lessons, and thought-provoking discussions that will challenge you to execute something new and innovative that will drive results in your organization. And now, here's Dr. Taunya Lowe.
Hello. You're listening to episode 13 of the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe. Using my results-driven philosophy of strategy, leadership, teams, and customer experiences, I help organizations develop their best kept secret, their human capital. In 2019, I released my second book, Results Driven Organizations, The 4 Keys for a High-Performance Workplace. This podcast is designed to expand the conversation with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development and what it really takes to create, develop, and maintain results-driven and high-performing organizations. People with poor well-being can't serve customers as well as those who are thriving. They're less productive, they're less effective, they're less innovative, and they're less perceptive. They cost more to insure. They're absent more often, less likely to engage, and have more safety and theft incidents. So to put it succinctly, if you care about your business's well-being, you must care about your employees' well-being. So today we're going to be talking about corporate recess. Remember when recess was your favorite subject? Has anything really changed that much? I mean, you still crave the time to take a break, have a great time, play all afternoon, whether it's golf or tennis or just laying out in the sun, and create some strong bonds with your friends and your coworkers. Well, the bell has rung. Let's go to recess. Today, we're talking with Dr. Taunya Paris. Dr. Taunya is a nationally recognized clinical pharmacist, speaker, author, and media personality. Dr. Taunya is a consultant pharmacist who specializes in medication therapy for preventative health, chronic disease management, and improving health outcomes for her patients. Born and raised outside of New Orleans, Louisiana, she naturally developed a love for the city's rich cocktail culture. And from there, she evolved from a self-taught home bartender to a certified mixologist and executive bourbon steward. This love birthed White Coat Cocktails, where Dr. Taunya helps individuals and organizations harness the power of happy hour as a tool for self-care. Through her cocktail classes and corporate signature events, she teaches them how to create custom apothecary cocktails while celebrating life's wins and pressing through tough times. I'm so excited. Dr. Taunya, welcome to RDO.
Thank you, Dr. Taunya. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited to be here and talk about corporate wellness, talk about recess. That's my favorite.
I know. May was Mental Health Month. And so, you're helping us wrap up our series on workplace wellness and, recess. We're ending it with, recess, because I think it's so important for, especially now, the season that we're in, to talk about wellness. All of the data is telling us that, what's happening with the pandemic and everything is that leadership organizations should really look at wellness. But I'm moving ahead. Let me back up a little bit. I've shared your bio, and I would love for you to tell our listeners about your journey from pharmacist to White Coat Cocktails.
Okay, so to be honest, it's not that much of a stretch. I call it the basics of counterculture are the same when it comes to being a pharmacist that's filling prescriptions versus being a bartender or a mixologist who is creating cocktails for their patrons. Very similar in the skill set that you need to be successful in both of those things, paying attention to detail and just really having a love for people. The best pharmacists and the best bartenders genuinely have a love for people and wanting them to have the best outcomes. The only difference is the bartender. I've seen that quote all the time. A bartender is nothing but a pharmacist is a bartender with better inventory, or a bartender is like a pharmacist with liquid potions for liquid potions for wellness. So it was something natural. It comes from, surprisingly enough, a lot of people will talk about their ventures into entrepreneurship being a pivot, coming out of being dissatisfied with their careers or with their jobs. I'm a little different in that I actually love my job. I've always wanted to be a pharmacist since fifth grade, and where I am right now in my career, I can't think of a better place to be. So it wasn't birthed out of lack of anything, but a true desire to, want to share the happiness. I was satisfied in my career, and just counting my blessings, looking at all the things around me that were good. And I was just like, I have amazing family, I have amazing friends, I love my job. And just recognizing out of a, true sense of compassion for others, like there are so many people who don't have this, who don't have those outlets, who don't have that abundance in their network. So, and I just was like, man, the world would be a better place if more people had that, so
more people had happy hour.
That's my mission, just to make sure that as many people as possible have a safe space where they can have those relationships that are thriving and pouring into them, and in turn them being able to pour into others. So you get what you need and you pay it forward. So it was birthed out of that, and just going to a business conference where the focus was on doctors learning how to monetize their medical degrees and walk in their purpose while still making some money at it. So, creating cocktails and creating those safe spaces for my friends and family, that was something that I was already doing. But the beauty of it was just learning how to bring it to the masses and generate some income, generate some additional freedom to do things on my own terms. So that's where White Coat Cocktails came from. I have a sincere desire for people to just have those safe spaces for those relationships to really thrive. I know that is it's healthy. And I want that for other people, because it has brought me so many benefits throughout my life, and when facing a lot of different challenges.
Absolutely. Dr. Tennille, being from the South myself, we know that people connect over food and cocktails. People connect there, right? And so it's interesting to hear this how you've taken this and you've created this this business, right, from something that's been there, but now we can make it a part of corporate recess. So so I love that. So not only do I love that, I also love quotes, and I believe that leaders should live a quote, not just quote it. And I have a ton of leadership quotes at my fingertips, but the one that is appropriate for today is one that I actually found on Quote Life. And it says, exercise, get moving to pump your endorphins and elevate your mood. take an adult recess. Dr. Tennille, when I read that, I wanted to pack my bags and go to the beach, but I said, wait, I can't. Dr. Tennille is coming. So, so Dr. Tennille, do you have a favorite quote or philosophy on adult recess or corporate wellness? And how do you live that quote out loud in your organization?
Okay, so yes, I do. At the core of what I do with White Coat Cocktails, at the heart of it all is just the focus on being happy, right? Happy hour, and defining what that really means, being happy. And I've always thought, and I subscribe to the quote, the key to being happy is knowing you have the power to choose what to accept and what to let go.
Powerful.
And, that's something that I try my best to live by. I think people, a lot of times they lose sight of that because many times we're taught that when we look at root words and study words, happiness is related to situations, happenstance at the root, right? And so some people will feel that based on their situations determine whether or not they're going to be happy. And they get caught up in that. And a lot of times they can't get out of that. But that quote is important to me because what it lets me know is regardless of the happenstance, regardless of the situation, you will always have the power to choose what you allow, what you accept for yourself, for your life, and the things that don't serve you well. You can choose to let those things go. So even though you may not be able to always control what happens to you, you can control how it shapes. You can choose what part of that you want to keep. And you can choose to change your perspective. You can choose to change how you look at those things, and what things are going to serve you well in that situation and what things are not going to serve you well. And you can let those things go. So I tried my best to make sure that I am mindful in identifying those things that are in alignment with who I am, in alignment with my business, in alignment with what I want to leave behind after I'm long gone. And then the things, like I said, that don't serve that purpose, finding ways, sometimes creative ways to to get rid of those,
to release them back into the universe,
to
is
release
what I
them
say.
to the universe for somebody else to deal with. Look, not my thing.
Dr. Tennille, you're so right. I think that's a huge component of wellness, right? From wherever you sit, whether you sit in the corporate space, the entrepreneur space, or whether you're just sitting in your living room or your kitchen table, being able to release those things that no longer serve you is the beginning. I love what you said about happy. I think of, when I think about happy and happiness are situational, but joy is long term. Joy is everlasting. My word for last year, for 2020, was joy. Of all words, it was joy. And so, of course, I chose that word before I knew we were going to be in a pandemic, but I kept going back to that. I kept going back to that in the middle of all of the craziness. I don't feel happy today, but here's some things where I found joy. Joy is an inside job. Happiness is outside. So I love that. And I love that quote. So Corporate Wellness Magazine stated, as the pandemic wore on, studies identified people with chronic diseases, including diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, and heart disease, as one of the most at-risk groups of COVID-19 infection and complications. This heightened health consciousness and pushed many people to pay closer attention to their health. In your opinion, what is one thing you would suggest leaders do to make corporate wellness and corporate resource an ongoing priority from this point forward?
The one thing that they need to do in order to make it an ongoing priority is recognize the benefit. It's not just, it's not just a trend or, the new trend for corporate or, for corporate culture, but understanding the true benefit to the business. The business of being well is good business for all companies for so many different reasons. When we're talking about wellness, a business is not going to be well if their employees are not well. It's not going to be productive if the employees are not productive.
Absolutely.
You cannot run a business without people. And if you don't care about the people, you're saying you really don't care about your business. And you can see that over and over again in some of the top corporations. You see a similar thread throughout all of the ones that are really successful. They really pay attention to the wellness of their employees, because you have to look at it from the same perspective as relationships. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So if you are an employee who has nothing to give, are you going to give your last to your job? No, they're going to get the worst of you.
Yeah.
Because that's all that's left. So making sure that there is a mutually beneficial relationship there. It's not one-sided. It's going to be so key because it just, like I said, there's so many benefits to that. So many benefits.
Absolutely. Fast Company did an article October 1st of 2015, right? And they talked about the business case for adult recess and how psychologists were discovering the cognitive benefits of purposeless fun, anything from just having a dance party to a color party to a paint party, all of these things that can be incorporated into, into the workplace to make people feel more connected. It's a connecting factor as well, but also to give people an opportunity to just breathe for a minute. And it is a culture. It is a culture. I believe that organizations should make that a part of their cultural, their mission and vision for their organization. What is the culture of wellness? Where do they stand on wellness? Just like we want to know where organizations stand with their DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, I think it's just as important to understand where do you stand on employee wellness and how they take care of themselves mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and all of that. Because to me, it's all interconnected. What are your thoughts?
I definitely do think that it's all interconnected, and not just from a business case standpoint. There's science behind happy hour.
Yeah.
There have been several studies about the benefits of happy hour in a corporate setting specifically. And what they find is, during happy hour, we all know, well, I hope a lot of people know the effects of alcohol. It can help to lower inhibitions, make people more open. And of course, we can't go without saying moderation is key and being responsible in consumption of alcohol. But in a lot of those scientific studies, they saw benefits to corporate happy hour, the benefits to the employees and to the companies who were hosting these happy hours. So, people smile more during corporate happy hour. They've had a drink or two. They're more likely to engage someone that they don't know. So in a team building session, or especially especially with COVID, we see it more during times of major transition, with teams, people having to come together that may have never met before in person. A lot of it is virtual, but you're still wanting to make those connections. We see that, corporate sponsored happy hours, people are more apt to engage others that they didn't previously know, and to a certain extent, bring their more authentic selves to the plate without worrying about judgment or criticism, especially if everyone is participating. So we see the scientific facts behind the benefits of corporate sponsored happy hours. You can't get around that. It's just there. The science is there.
Right. I want to ask you on that same vein, to our listeners, we're using the term corporate recess, but the reality is we're talking about team building. And so team building, engagement, fun, right? And so, Dr. Tim, are there any risk around creating a team building experience around cocktails? And what if there's staff who don't drink? How do we not exclude and make this an event for everyone? Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yes, definitely. So, first things first, one, we have to recognize, while happy hour has a myriad of health benefits, that recess that we're talking about, alcohol consumption, like I said, I don't care what the studies are out there, alcohol consumption is not what I would consider healthy. Are there health benefits to some? Yes, there are. But those benefits can be achieved, in other ways that are less likely to have negative side effects. So when we're talking about corporate recess that involves alcohol consumption, some of the things we definitely want to do, planning is everything. Planning, setting boundaries, and being intentional about creating those safe spaces where we kind of give the housekeeping rules, the ground rules, and stick by those rules so that we don't place our employees in compromising positions, so that's just, to put it mildly, we don't want them, we want them to be having fun. We don't want them wilding out, So,
oh my God. As you were talking years ago, I remember going to a corporate retreat up in the Georgia mountains, and it got crazy. It got crazy because, there were some people that kind of they went too far. They went past the 2-drink minimum.
Correct. Don't get extra tickets.
Right. Don't get extra tickets. And I had to end up coming back and just really apologizing. It was crazy. When you were saying that, I remember that has been, I know, 15, 16 years ago, but it's true. It's true. I love how you said, put some boundaries around it, some parameters. Corporate resource is not an opportunity to forget to think, oh, okay, I'm free. No, you're still at work. You're still at work. So
I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but it just highlights to the 10th degree what I'm talking about every time I see it. Office Christmas Party.
Oh, no.
So it's a movie where it's Christmas time. They're trying to save the business, so they decide to throw this epic Christmas party to woo one of the potential clients that would save the business.
Okay.
So when I say this party got out of hand, it was completely out of hand, but it speaks to, the dangers of not having boundaries, because
yes,
it's still a corporate environment. You still want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward. And we can, we look at the benefits of it, but you also want to look at the potential risks. Just like with any business plan, any business event, you have to count the cost and then you minimize the risks there. So just making sure that people understand the purpose for the corporate recess is always going to be key. Getting that message out there, getting that buy-in before the event ever starts. you know, just explaining that, like I said, the purpose of it, you know, whether it be to create or expose people to company culture, you know, new hires and different things. You want to make sure that as a company, you're putting your best foot forward, so that employees know what is the standard, you know, for how you are to show up in this corporate environment.
Exactly.
That's going to be key. Yeah, you want to have fun. You want to have lots of fun. Do you want to have fun at your own personal expense? No, you don't. So, you know, so just being able to establish company culture, you know,
In a
team
fun
bonding.
environment. Yes.
Yeah, fun environment, team bonding, celebrating accomplishments. All of those things are just, you know, they're just good for business.
Absolutely.
Productivity is higher when people are happy, when people are engaged, and when things aren't so stuffy.
Right.
Everything can't be just about the bottom line. Sometimes you have to deviate from that in order to get to a better outcome by pouring into the employees and making sure that they feel valued, they feel appreciated, and that they feel connected to each other. That really fosters loyalty, those connections in ways that money will never be able to do.
Absolutely. You know, Dr. Taunya, I want to switch gears for a minute. One of the many things we hear in research is about people working remotely is missing the water cooler conversations and really bonding with their coworkers. How does White Coat Cocktails help companies do this, especially virtually? And can you do it with mocktails as well?
Oh, yes. Okay. So, yes, you can. And yes, you should. So at White Coat Cocktails, what we do is we host corporate happy hour events called Sip and Sip with Dr. Taunya. That's SIP, SIP, Shelter in Place, and SIP, where we take them through learning how to create, you know, two cocktails. And in between that, we'll do some trivia, some fun things where, you know, sometimes we'll incorporate, if it's a conference, a recap of conference highlights or corporate trivia, or just icebreakers, getting to know different people that are engaging with each other. And it's just in a really great environment. People are doing this from the comforts of their own home. But with that also comes responsibility to be inclusive. You know, that's one of those hot button words.
Yes.
It's something we've always been striving to do in corporate America, but maybe they just didn't put a word to it, but being inclusive. So getting away from pressure to drink. I think for a host of reasons, you know, people choose not to. You know, there's the big push towards living or choosing healthier options, living a healthier lifestyle, to kind of reduce some of those negative risk factors that we've been hearing about as it relates to COVID. But even if it's just personal choice, you have to, like I say in the beginning, you're creating a safe space. And that safe space has to be safe for everyone, even the people who choose not to consume alcohol for whatever reason. It may be health reasons, it may just be personal choice, religious reasons. They may be on medications at the time, but just taking that pressure completely off the table, where people even, and like I said, that's creating that culture, right?
Right, exactly.
Where you're making it okay for people to show up just as they are. So yes, you can come to corporate happy hour, even if you're not necessarily drinking alcohol. We do that with making really great mocktails, and what I call, I differentiate between a mocktail and a zero proof cocktail.
Ooh, I love it. Zero proof.
Zero proof. So mocktails are usually just, riffs on a classic cocktail. So it
Mm-hmm.
looks like it. It may have a very similar flavor profile. Someone may not know the difference between the drink with the alcohol and the one without. To me, that's a mocktail. A zero proof cocktail, and I enjoy creating those, especially, are creating drinks that don't have alcohol but are equally as complex and exciting
Ooh.
with great ingredients, great flavor profiles, to the point where sometimes they'll pass on the ones with the alcohol because they want that one over, they want that drink over
Just hearing
there.
you describe it, I'm like, oh my God, I want to come to the next sip and sip. I mean, so leaders, you're listening to this. You'll be able to connect with Dr. Taunya in the
Yeah,
show notes. But I mean, I see this as a
yeah,
really fun way to bring people together, just so they're not feeling alone and lonely and isolated during this time. I know the world is starting to open up a little bit, but for some people who are working remotely, they don't have that, during the day. And I think, as we were talking earlier about just creating that culture of wanting to bring people together to make sure they're okay and to
hmm
say, hey, we're still a part of the same team, and so that you feel engaged, not like you're on an island all by yourself, and have some fun
correct.
too.
Correct. I'm
Yeah.
all about that. And like with White Coat cocktails, it runs the gamut. It could be something as simple as, for corporate happy hour, them getting, the recipe cards and the shopping list, and then getting their things and coming together in that way to create the cocktails, or, the complete experience with some of our signature cocktail boxes where they order those in bulk and it has
Wow.
everything in it except the alcohol. So,
Wow.
because that's part of being inclusive, but everything but the booze boxes, that's what we're offering, where they get everything they need except the alcohol, to really enjoy happy hour, to really own the experience. So, it's just been really great, very well received. And the beauty of the boxes is you get ingredients in there that you're just not going to find in a lot of typical cocktail
Which
boxes. You
makes
just
it even more fun, right?
correct, because you're exploring things that you may have not even heard of, you may have not even seen in a bar, or you may have not even seen outside of a bar. But being able to recreate some of those really great cocktails and really great experiences from the comfort of your own home, these are things. Look, this is a skill set. Adult recess is a skill. Okay,
Everybody wants to play with the people with the best toys, right? And so
correct. That is correct.
so, no, I want to go over here because she's got the best toys.
Correct.
So I love that, Dr. Tennille. So, what do you believe? We have had a great time talking about wellness and corporate recess. So, as we round this out, what do you believe are the biggest leadership challenges leaders face today, especially when it comes to implementing corporate wellness and maybe even corporate recess?
One of the things that I see is really a mindset issue, and I know you delve into that very, very well, Dr. Tanya. But the mindset that I see that is a barrier, with the leaders, is that they think that there has to be some certain type of separation
Mm,
from their employees, from their staff, from the team that they're managing, that there has to be some separation when it comes to how they engage or interact on a personal level. So
right.
you find a lot of people in leadership positions that are very standoffish, that are very closed about their personal life. Those are the managers and the leaders. They don't engage in the water cooler talk.
Mm,
They're not there for that. But what they're missing is the opportunity to learn their employees as people, real,
Wow.
like a real human being with life experiences that they bring with them to work. People don't leave their problems at home.
Right. Right.
They don't leave the highs and lows at home. You think that that is the case, but we know for a fact that that's not. So being the type of leader that is willing to get out there and engage and share who they are, what makes them who they are, also imparts to their team the corporate culture, what they're looking for, what makes you an ideal leader will also inspire them to take on those same characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
So it truly is lead by example. You have
Mm.
to set the example for your team. And the only way you can do that is by showing up.
Mm.
So you want people in leadership positions to show up authentically so that you get an authentic relationship with your team. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a big barrier, that distance that they feel they have to put there,
Yeah. The
that it will
wall.
diminish, that it will diminish the ability to lead. But most successful leaders um, have that in common,
Mm-hmm.
where they absolutely have no qualms about showing up as their authentic selves,
Right.
so that it creates a space for their team to do the same.
I love it. I love it. I think one of the things that COVID did was it pulled that veil down, because, you're the executive leader and you've got, dogs barking in the background, babies crying, you're changing diapers, and so I think, you're on a conference call. I think what COVID did was kind of remove that veil, if you will, of the pretentiousness that sometimes leadership or leaders can carry intentionally and unintentionally sometimes, that prevents their teams from seeing them as a human, a real person. And
Correct.
so when we engage in these activities, that's one of the things I love, love, love about team building and corporate recess and just kind of out of the box bonding activities, is that you really get to bond and I really get to know who's on my team other than what I saw on your resume,
Correct.
or other than
Correct.
the box that I try to put you in. I get to know you as an individual. And I think when we get to know people as individuals, it makes for an absolute healthier workplace.
Oh yeah, I tell people you don't know me until you've
Mm.
seen me in my bonnet, honey. Until you've seen me with my hair pinned up and the lashes and all of these things off. Until you've seen me scrub face and in my bonnet, you don't know me at all.
Right. You
Get
don't
to
know
know
me
me in
at
my
all.
get to know me in my bonnet,
Oh,
and I will tell you, just I've been in a lot of meetings where it's like you look at people in a new light, and maybe it's not perfect, but you like it. You like that it's not perfect. I've been on the Zoom meetings with, with the VPs with the 5 o'clock shadow, and they're in workout clothes because they just got off the treadmill to jump on the Zoom. And we've seen I've seen the guy who was on the news, one of the news channels, with the babies coming in and he's
yes.
in the background, the baby coming in, and the wife is like trying to get him out, and this national TV, and it's like, sir, I absolutely love it. That is what's going on in our homes right
That's
now.
that's
So,
what's going on everywhere, and we
and it
like
makes
it.
it okay.
There you
It
go.
takes the stress off of, you know, people having that perfection paralysis. It removes all of that. And it's like, you know what? It is what it is.
It
It's
is what
real. It is what it is. Like, I'm going to still do my job, but you're teaching people not to pay so much attention to the mask that we wear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dr. Taunya, what are you reading that we should be reading?
I took the book upstairs. So I'm actually reading 2 books. Believe it or not, they're both Bible related. So one of them is Audacious Prayers by Jade Simmons. It's designed to be like a month-long daily thing, but
Yes.
I've been taking each of the prayers one a week and deep diving into that, like how to show up in my prayer life, to be bold, trusting, learning to trust God for those big things, that what I'm learning aren't so big to the creator of everything, right? You ask for the big things you think that are so big, and it's like, oh, no problem.
Yeah.
So I'm really learning how to grow in my faith by making God bigger in my mind.
Oh, I love that. And I love that book too.
Yes, thank you. Look, thank you for the recommendation, Dr. Taunya.
I love that book too.
Very well for me. I finally got around to getting it, and I'm really, really enjoying it. The second book is the Cocktail Bible. So, I try to stay up on all the new stuff, but going back to the oldies but goodies, those basics, is really important for me to combat imposter syndrome. That I've been a pharmacist for almost 20 years now. Have I ever officially bartended, worked at someone else's bar? No. So but I've always loved it, and I want to be true to the craft. So that involves learning the new stuff that's coming out now, creating my own, new innovation, but also, being clear in studying the craft. So the Cocktail Bible is a really great book to do that. And I really also like the Cocktail Codex is also another really good book that I am reading. I think it's considered a coffee table book because it has like really great pictures. But it's really getting back to the basics, the fundamentals, and just how to do what I do with consistency, and with some pizzazz too.
I love it.
All about the pizzazz.
You got to have some pizzazz. You got to have some flair,
Yeah.
So, RDO listeners, I always say leaders are readers. So, Dr. Taunya, thank you for giving us those books that you're reading that we should be reading. We've been chatting with Dr. Taunya Paris, a nationally recognized clinical pharmacist, speaker, author, media personality, and CEO and founder of White Coat Cocktails. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Visit the show notes to see how to connect with Dr. Taunya, grab her book, and while you're at it, grab a copy of Results Driven Organizations, the 4 Keys for a High Performance Workplace, and our special gift to you for being a valued listener. Until next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Taunya Lowe. Be sure to review the show notes for the resources mentioned, and don't forget to grab your free gift available at freegiftfromtanya.com. Until next time.